Welcome to World Talk Brief.
Today, we're turning our attention to a developing story out of southern Spain, and it's a truly tragic one. A major train disaster has killed at least 21 people, and what's really difficult here is that authorities are warning that this number, well, it's likely to rise as the rescue work continues.
So this all happened near the town of Adamuz, which is close to the city of Cordoba. And here's the sequence of events as we understand it right now. A high-speed train, on its way from Malaga to Madrid, somehow derailed. It didn't just stop, it actually crossed over onto the next track, right into the path of another train coming the other way.
Okay, let's break this down a bit to get a real sense of the scale of this tragedy. You had two trains involved. The one that derailed was an IO train. It had about 300 passengers on board. It then hit a Renfe train, which was carrying roughly 100 people. So on top of the fatalities, we're hearing about more than 73 people injured. You add it all up, and you're talking about a massive incident involving around 400 people.
But, numbers only ever tell part of the story. The immediate human impact, well, it was just chaos and shock. So let's try to understand what it was like, both for the people on those trains and for the first responders arriving at the scene. We actually have a first-hand account from a journalist, Salvador Jimenez, who just happened to be a passenger on one of the trains, and he said, "I was in the first carriage. There was a moment when it felt like an earthquake." That description, like an earthquake, really gives you a sense of just how sudden and incredibly violent this must have been for everyone inside.
And then you have the perspective of the rescue crews. The fire chief in Cordoba said something that really hits home. He said, "It is hard, tricky work. We have even had to remove a dead person to be able to reach someone alive." I mean, that just paints a harrowing picture of the reality they're facing inside that wreckage, making these absolutely impossible, heartbreaking decisions just to try and reach survivors.
And of course, a tragedy like this just ripples outwards. You think about the families waiting for any piece of information. The Red Cross put it perfectly. They described the families as being in a situation of great anxiety due to the lack of information. And that's exactly what it is. Just this awful, agonizing uncertainty spreading far beyond the crash site itself.
So when a crisis of this magnitude hits, the next question is always, what was the response? Let's take a look at how the authorities reacted, both in the immediate aftermath and then the broader official statements that followed.
The response on the ground was fast and it seems pretty coordinated. First, obviously, emergency services and the Spanish Red Cross were mobilized to the scene. At the same time, they shut down all rail services in the area, a crucial step to prevent anything worse from happening. But it wasn't just about the crash site. They also set up support centers at 5 major stations for families desperate for news, and even kept terminals open overnight for passengers who were left stranded.
Almost immediately, messages of condolence started pouring in. From within Spain, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez called it a night of deep pain, and King Felipe and Queen Letizia expressed their condolences. But it went beyond Spain's borders. We saw messages from French President Macron and EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen, all offering support. It really shows how a tragedy like this resonates across the entire continent.
All right, so now we get to the big question, the one that investigators are grappling with right now. How on earth did this happen? Because the circumstances here are, well, one official called them extremely strange.
And this really is the heart of the puzzle. Why would a modern, state-of-the-art train derail on a perfectly straight section of track? A track that was, by the way, just refurbished. It just doesn't add up. And that's what makes this so baffling for everyone involved in the investigation.
So, when you lay out the facts we have, the mystery actually gets deeper, not clearer. Okay, fact 1, the track was straight. Fact 2, that same track was just refurbished last year. Fact 3, the train itself was a Freccia 1000, a model that can hit 400 kilometers an hour. It's top of the line. So all the usual suspects in a derailment, a sharp turn, bad track, an old train, they're just not here. And that's why, right now, the cause is a total unknown.
And to really understand the shockwave this is sending across Spain, you have to remember the context. This crash is immediately bringing back terrible memories of the 2013 Galicia derailment, which was the country's deadliest high-speed rail disaster, killing 80 people. So when something like this happens again, it hits a very raw nerve. And that's why figuring out what happened here isn't just an investigation, it's a national priority. So that's where we are now. We're left with this critical, unanswered question: what could possibly cause a modern train to fail on what should have been a perfectly safe piece of track? This investigation is definitely going to be one to watch closely. Subscribe to World Talk Brief for more clear, thoughtful explanations. World Talk Brief, news explained without the noise.